Welcome to Freethought Matters. I'm Dan Barker.
And I'm Annie Laurie Gaylor, and we are co-presidents of the Freedom From Religion Foundation.
And the Freedom From Religion Foundation is the United States' largest organization of freethinkers. That's atheists and agnostics working to keep state and church separate and to educate the public about the views of non-believers.
And we'd love to have you join us today. And we do a lot of talking about Christian nationalists on Freethought Matters, but today we're going to talk about Hindu nationalism, and our guest is Amit Paul, who is our Director of Communications at the Freedom From Religion Foundation and has worked at the Progressive for many years as an assistant editor and a managing editor and running their progressive media project. Amit, welcome to Freethought Matters.
Thanks, Annie Laurie.
So, Amit, this issue came to my attention when I saw an article that you wrote for the Progressive in October last year, 2018, about the rise of Hindu nationalism in India, called From India with Fear. Was that the name of that?
Absolutely, Dan. So, yes, I went to India in August on a family visit, and this phenomenon has been just burgeoning and becoming more worrying with time. It's the phenomenon of Hindu nationalism that's been fostered and protected by the current government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who came into power in 2014, ruining my birthday that year because the results were announced on May 17th, I clearly remember. So he's up for re-election in a couple of months, and these almost 5 years he's done a lot of damage to secularism and to the fabric of Indian society.
Isn't India a secular nation?
Very much. The largest secular democracy in the world. And that's why it matters, with more than 1 billion people. But it also matters, Dan, because India is part of a global phenomenon, sadly speaking. And this phenomenon is right-wing populism, whereby leaders like Trump, Modi, Erdogan in Turkey, and now Bolsonaro in Brazil, they propound this right-wing nationalism of which religion is an essential part. The majority religion, in the case of the United States, of course, Christianity, and in the case of India, Hinduism.
Now, you had not been back to India for about 5 years, is that right?
No, for a couple of years.
So when you were there visiting family, you were shocked at what was going on. So what is going on there?
A lot of things, Annie Laurie. Like in the United States, it's worrying both at the political level and at the social level. Like Trump has enabled people to voice their hate the same way in India. I hear things now that were not heard before by my relatives, even sadly speaking. You know, just anti-minority bigotry, for example. So at that level, that's worrying. And of course, officially, there's been a lot going on in terms of policies. There's been vigilantism, deathly vigilantism, in which people have been hunted down and killed, literally lynched in some instances because they were accused of trafficking in beef. I kid you not.
In beef?
In beef, yes. Having either quantities of beef with them or trafficking in cattle to be used for the purposes of beef.
So what this really comes down to, this Hindu nationalism, is really an anti-Islam in the country, isn't it? Because
anti-minority, anti-Islam, anti-Christianity, and anti-secular. A number of secular activists have been gunned down in the last few years. This will be of lots of interest to our viewers. 4 leading secular activists and journalists who were speaking out against Hindu nationalism have been killed by a Hindu extreme right outfit since 2013 or so.
Wow.
So Modi goes way back in terms of his involvement with Hindu nationalism, does he not?
Mind-boggling, Annie Laurie. Since he was 8 years old. You know, at that age, we all are sort of, playing with our toys, maybe learning how to read fluently and stuff like that. He was already indoctrinated into an RSS camp. RSS stands for the Rashtriya Swamsevak Sangh, or the National Volunteer Corps, partly modeled on, again, I kid you not, the brown shirts in fascist Italy, founded in the 1920s, and an ex-member of the organization killed none other than Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, or Mahatma Gandhi as we better know him, in January 1948. And he went to a camp when he was a kid, Modi, and ever since then has been a member of the organization. And from there, transitioned to the BJP, which is the political arm of the RSS. I know it's alphabet soup, which is the Indian People's Party. And that's the governing party that he heads. And that's in charge of India right now and in most states.
Now, before we talk a little bit more about violence in India, tell us the connection with President Trump and Hinduism.
He likes Modi, doesn't he?
He likes Modi. There have been some policy differences. And in private, he is said to have mocked his Indian accent. I'm not making this up. That's Trump being Trump. But at the same time, they do share somewhat of a common outlook. Both are strong men. Both are right-wing populists. And both are anti-Islam. And that's what binds them together. And there's an ad that came out in the fall of 2016 that I'm convinced will be looked at by scholars of religious nationalism as an important exhibit, an important artifact, decades from now, financed by a right-wing Indian American, in which Trump partly speaks in Hindi in order to appeal to the right-wing Indian American segment of the US voting population.
I didn't know he knew all these languages.
Yes,
Wow.
isn't that impressive? He rehearsed 15 times.
And didn't he say that
reportedly.
he and Modi will be best friends or
Best
something?
friends?
Yeah.
And then he mimics, in the part in Hindi, he mimics Modi's winning campaign slogan, which is Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar, which means this time a Modi government. And Trump says that in Hindi, just partly comprehensively, but he says Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar.
Well, let's
Let
watch
us-
the ad.
Let's watch that.
Certainly.
The Indian and Hindu community will have a true friend in the White House. We will defeat radical Islamic terrorism. I look forward to working with Prime Minister Modi.
Abi ki baar Trump Sarkar.
We love the Hindus. We love India.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Now, that's an ad I didn't see.
That's an
Targeted
ad.
to
I don't know why this didn't get more play in the mainstream US media. It got a lot of play in India, obviously, got a lot of play among Indian American community newspapers, but somehow this didn't break through into the broader sort of, media landscape, and I'm still baffled as to why, because I don't think Trump made very many ads in other languages, unless I'm mistaken.
And apparently he didn't even speak Hindi very well, did he?
Yes.
And that because you were telling us about the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Yes, so Jimmy Kimmel had a really funny segment where he stopped, or his staff stopped, Indian Americans walking outside the studio, or randomly, I think maybe it was a busy intersection or whatever, and said, hey, let's play Trump speaking in Hindi back to you, and can you tell us what he's saying? And we can see what their reactions were.
Well, let's watch that.
I don't know. I don't speak Hindi, so we went out on the street today to find people who do. We found a lot of people who did. We played the tape for them. And will those people who speak Hindi understand what Donald Trump was trying to say? Let's find out.
So we're just going to play this clip of Trump speaking and just tell us what you think he's saying.
Okay.
Abi ki baar Trump Sarkar.
Can I have it again?
Abi ki baar Trump Sarkar.
I have no idea what he's saying. That's not Hindi.
How long have you been speaking Hindi?
Since I was born.
I have no idea what he just said. Let's try again.
Abi ki baar Trump Sarkar.
Abhi Kibar Trump, I have no idea. I don't understand it at all.
Abi ki baar Trump Sarkar.
Avi Gibar Trump Chhabra. That does not sound Hindi.
Abi ki baar Trump Sarkar.
Sorry, say that again.
Abi ki baar Trump Sarkar.
Apiki bar Trump chaka. Sorry, it's not pronounced as well as that very well.
You can't understand what he's saying?
No, not at all. That's not Hindi.
That's funny.
Finally, at the end, they have one or two people who manage to understand what he says, and he provides a very amusing kind of translation. Riffing off of what Trump says.
Remind me what he did say.
This time, a Trump government, which was mimicking the winning Modi campaign.
Yeah, that's what I thought he said. Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
So, but I mean, it's amusing, but at the same time, of course, there's a serious underpinning to that, which is that it shows, as I said, the coming together of Christian nationalism and Hindu nationalism, and this right-wing Indian American trying to get both these entities leading these charges, these phenomenon in their home countries to come and work together in a common cause against Islam and against secular thought.
So instead of MAGA, Make America Great Again, it's Make India Great Again, MIGA maybe. This idea of going back to the supposed perfect time when the religion was in control of the country and Hinduism was this beautiful history. Weren't you telling me that they were down on the Taj Mahal, for example, because it looks Muslim?
Absolutely, Dan. So the whole notion is to go back to the supposed golden age before the coming of Islam, before the coming of Christianity to India, when Hinduism provided kind of a perfect blueprint for society and everybody lived happily, even the untouchables, even women, and there was no problems at all. And exactly, the Taj Mahal is seen as a symbol of Islamic encroachment, even though it's, of course, the most famous symbol of India globally. And that's why the government in my parents' home state removed the Taj Mahal from a tourism brochure, interestingly enough, because they don't like it, even though it brings more tourism dollars to India than anything else.
Yeah, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Absolutely,
there. That
absolutely.
makes no sense at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you were also telling us something about the destruction of a mosque in 1992, I believe it was.
Yes,
by
92, December 1992, not too far from my family home. There is there was a defunct mosque at the exact spot that, this is why I have to be careful, where Hindu nationalists claim that a leading Hindu god, Lord Ram, was born. And they actually, led by the BJP, which is the current ruling government. At that time, it wasn't. It was the government in the state. So that's why law and order stood by. So led by activists from that party, they demolished that structure. And now the campaign is, for the last 26, 27 years, has been to get a large, magnificent, in quotation marks, temple built to Lord Ram at that site. And this is what has brought the BJP to power, at least partly. And Modi has ridden that religious nationalist wave to power in 2014.
Well, thank you, Amit. We'll be back in a minute to talk some more about this threat of Hindu nationalism in India. I'm Annie Largailor.
And I'm Dan Barker. We'll continue our conversation with FFRF's Director of Communications, Amit Paul, about the rise of Hindu nationalism in India and nationalism around the world. So.
Hi, I'm Ron Reagan, an unabashed atheist, and I'm alarmed by the intrusions of religion into our secular government. That's why I'm asking you to support the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest and most effective association of atheists and agnostics, working to keep state and church separate, just like our founding fathers intended. Please support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ron Reagan, lifelong atheist, not afraid of burning in hell.
My name's Jarvis, and I'm an out-of-the-closet atheist. There are many reasons why I'm an atheist, but I'll start with the crudest explanation. I'm sure many of you have seen Clash of the Titans or The Immortals or 300, these blockbuster films about ancient Greek or Roman religion, which we now call mythology. But back then it wasn't mythology. It was very real for them. They genuinely believed that you had to put a coin in a person's mouth before they were buried so that they could pay for the literal ferry to the afterlife. Just as many people today believe that they should eat crackers and wine on a Sunday, or that God wants women to hide their bodies under black burqas. Every religion that has ever existed, and there are many, have all believed that they were right, that their rituals and rules and beliefs were 100% correct. And they all thought they nailed it. But where are they today? If they're not completely forgotten, they're on the silver screen, amusing us with their sword fights, animal sacrifices, and oracles. The religions of today are the entertainment of tomorrow. Everyone, I hope, is an atheist about Zeus and Apollo, Juno and Poseidon. I just added Jesus and Muhammad to that list.
Welcome back to Freethought Matters.
We're talking with Amit Paul, who is an expert in Indian politics, and we're talking about the rise of Hindu nationalism. So, Amit, we left off talking about the destruction of this historic mosque in 1992 by basically Hindu hooligans,
Yes.
and what has transpired since then has just been constant violence.
So there's a direct through line from that destruction to Modi becoming the leader of India. What happened is, almost at the halfway mark in 2002, there was a train coming back from the site of the destruction of the mosque, or going to or coming back, anyway, a train en route to the site of the mosque. There were Hindu activists on that. There was a horrible incident in which a coach was burned. Now, whether it was accident, some people say that. More likely, perhaps, it was a crowd of Muslims who did that.
Retribution for the burning of the
yeah, exactly.
mosque.
And in retaliation, Modi he was in charge of the state of Gujarat. He let Hindu mobs roam free for the next couple of days, killing hundreds, if not thousands, of Muslims. And that enhanced, in huge quotation marks, his stature among Hindu nationalists. And he got elected, re-elected, and re-elected in his state, eventually became the leader of the party, and then in 2014 became the leader of India.
So tapping into this unrest of the outsiders, the Muslims, like in many of these countries, it's the outsiders, the others.
Absolutely.
That we want to preserve our pure religion within.
Absolutely. So this book I'm working on, it's deflection. So you basically blame the outsiders and minorities for the troubles the country is facing. So it's right-wing populism, where you're a populist, you're a man of the people, but you sort of, you mobilize people along identity lines, along majoritarian lines, and then you blame minorities for all the troubles that countries are facing.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, absolutely, whether it's Trump here or whether it's Modi in India. Mm-hmm. And as I said, in Turkey, there's Erdogan, and now Bolsonaro in Brazil.
So there is dissent among the people. They're not all rah-rah for Modi. You interviewed a famous actor, didn't you, in
Yes.
India, who wants a secular government who does not agree with Modi.
There are lots of people, yes. Lots of people, yes. So he's a childhood idol of mine. He's a very, very renowned actor in India. The only Indian actor to win the Best Actor award at the Venice Film Festival. Wow. Monsoon Wedding. He was also with Sean Connery in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Sean Connery's last movie to date. Yeah. His name is Nasiruddin Shah. And he's so troubled by what's happening in India in terms of the secular fabric being undone, that he's appeared in a recent ad for Amnesty International decrying what's been happening in India and asking people to mobilize against it. And he also expressed his concerns to me about what's been going on under the Modi government. So there are a lot of people, a lot of activists. Actually, it's a multi-party system, and the BJP and its allies only got about less than 40% of the vote. So more than 60% of India's population and a good portion of Hindus also do not agree with what he's doing.
At the time we're recording this show today, were expecting the vote in the election coming up in a few months, right? So there's a lot of dissent coming up into this election.
Yes, Dan. So the clue is May 17th, my birthday.
May 17th?
Yeah, so that time 5 years ago, so he has to call elections by early May for the results to be announced in mid-May. So it'll be late April or early May when the elections are held in India.
Now, India is like the United States in that there's a lot of pushback against our secular constitutions, but our constitutions are secular. And India paid the United States a great compliment by putting the principle of separation of church and state directly into its constitution. But, and people like Nehru, for example, very secular.
Yes, I'm so happy, Anilori and Dan, that on his birthday we have his quote on our marquee about him not having any paying any thought to the afterlife. So Jawaharlal Nehru was India's first prime minister from 1947 to 1964, very secular and agnostic, and ensured that India became a secular country. And I remember mentioning him in our job interview, and you saying, of course, he was such a great guy. And he was an admirer of Bertrand Russell and other Western free thinkers. And he's the major villain in Modi's India. Modi keeps on mentioning and decrying him so often, it's become almost a running joke. And really, they can't stand him. They would like to go after Gandhi also, but Gandhi is the father of the nation, so they don't go after him as often. It's Nehru that they have as their major target because he's this westernized, secular, free thinker who they cannot stand.
Now, Amit, some of this much of this trouble has to be coming from the partition itself in the 1940s, doesn't it? When we had, religion-based segregation, Pakistan created and India.
Yes, so a lot of it comes from that. And August 47, India was divided into two countries, which later became three, Pakistan, West Pakistan and East Pakistan. East Pakistan became Bangladesh. There's still scars left over from that. Hundreds of thousands of people died, and a lot of people in India are still bitter over that, and even at India's Muslims for, in their eyes, enabling this partition to happen. And there's also a fear psychosis because they feel embattled by Pakistan and Bangladesh. And
they're surrounded by
Muslim countries.
Majority countries.
Muslim majority countries. And Pakistan has been complicit in acts of terrorism in India. The deep state in Pakistan, it has to be said. A recent reminder, just last week, almost 50 security forces were killed by a suicide bomb in Indian Kashmir. So that has been going on and has led to a lot of antagonism.
So Modi can take advantage of the fear from these acts of terrorism, of course. It gives him ripe.
Very much so. There's a scholar of South Asia, Christine Fair, who had this interesting op-ed where she says that the Pakistani deep state did this to get Modi re-elected because it discredits India's secular constitution and secularism like nothing else ever would. That, Modi, if Modi is in power 10 years, then they can say India is not a secular country, and that's why Pakistan had to be founded to give protection to the subcontinent's Muslims.
So there has to be pushback. There have to be, you're saying 60% of the people did not vote for Modi. Where's the leadership against him?
Well, that's the sad part, Anilori. Organized political leadership is wishy-washy. So there's the Congress Party, which is the party of Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi. But under the current leadership, they've become kind of this wishy-washy, will be sort of defending secularism, at the same time pandering to majority Hindus kind of party. And so that's been a problem. So they are practicing what people say is soft Hindutva, which is basically kind of a mild, watered-down Hindu nationalism, not explicitly antagonistic toward minorities, but at the same time catering to the religious sentiments of the majority Hindu population.
You experienced some of this drive for Hindu nationalism when you got on the airplane in India and you found out that your food was limited to a vegetarian. Was that what happened on the plane?
Yeah. Yes, very much so. So the state-run airline, Air India, is only serving vegetarian food in economy class. And I sort of knew that, but then, I'd forgotten that. And it again dawned on me when I looked at it and asked, is this the only option? And they said, yes. It wasn't terrible, but still, I'd much rather have meat, every once in a while. So.
Well, it's the idea that everybody has to be Hindu, or you have to.
Yes. So it's this weird idealized notion of a Hindu diet, which is not even followed by most Hindus, but certain upper castes do. And in their notion of Hinduism, you are vegetarian. So the state-run airline now only has vegetarian food in economy class within India. They have stopped serving eggs to school kids in school meals, because in many states controlled by the BJP, because again, eggs are thought to be not Hindu.
So that's a governmental establishment of religion. They're pushing religion on
absolutely,
all of the people.
Absolutely. We need FFRF in India too.
And probably one of the more benign problems from the rise of Hindu nationalism would be the vegetarian.
Yes.
So very worrisome. But thank you so much, Amit, Paul, for telling us more about something we don't know much about in the United States, global nationalism based on religion.
Yes, and it's such a troubling phenomenon worldwide, and the book I'm working on is focusing on that. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for watching Free Thought Matters.
Because free thought matters.
Hi, I'm Steve Pinker. In my book, Enlightenment Now, I show that the world has become a better place as reason has been overcoming superstition and tribalism. But the values of the Enlightenment are under attack. That's why I'm a proud member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest association of free thinkers working to keep state and church separate. Please join me in supporting the Freedom from Religion Foundation to ensure that our government is driven not by religion, but by reason.